Hello and welcome to the Week 4 Tactics video. This one was again somewhat of a rough watch for sure to go through. A bit frustrating, not really for the same reasons as some might think. I'm not going to do with this video based on watching it that United are good or something like that. I want to point out what I see is going wrong specifically, what's happening here, and what I believe the solution to be. I tend to think that if you've watched kind of yesterday's live, there's a lot of narratives that go out there, and that tends to be what I disagree with. A lot of push of this is the thing that's wrong, this is the thing that's wrong, this is the thing that's wrong. A lot of that stuff doesn't really hold up to inspection. When you start to really watch the games, analyze them again, look at them again, slow them down, pause, rewind, which we did yesterday, and it was really frustrating. Now, I got to tell you, I did this to grab all these images and to go through this. I did this rewatching half of the game with a bunch of people in Patreon who all see the game differently and in different ways and all of that, and they're pretty much all in agreement. To give you a brief conclusion of what we're going to see, to me, it's a lot like Fulham. I'm not saying tactically necessarily, because actually Fulham was maybe better in some ways, but a lot like Fulham in the fact of a lot of wasted opportunities, a lot of mistakes. And when that keeps happening, my conclusion after Fulham was that from Ruben Amorim's perspective, the biggest problem that he has is selecting players who cannot do the job. Now, we've seen 4 games in a row. We've seen 4 games in the Premier League now, selecting certain players, doing certain things, and we saw some of them in the same role last season, and we kind of know at this point some people can't do it. And if he doesn't fix that, more than if he doesn't fix his system, we're going to be in big, big trouble, and I don't think he's going to make it. But let's look into it, and you can see if you can reach the same conclusions as me. But again, I went through pretty much the entire first half as well as the first bit of the second half, really until the second goal. Because after that, I find that it starts to get a little bit useless to tactically break it down. City started dropping deep, parking the bus, the normal kind of stuff, and that's fair enough. They absolutely can do that. After that, the tactics are semi-unimportant to me, at least for what we're discussing now. If at some point in the future we're so dominant that a lot of games look like that, then we'll start breaking down final third patterns against a loaded box and things like that more. But for now, we don't do it enough, and we're not in that game state enough to get there. But let's take a look. Let's start. This is the first image. This is 58 seconds into the game. Now, what I wanted to point out with this image, and one thing that I found really, really good, and I know that where everybody's feeling right now, you're going to look at it and say, there is nothing good. There is. United's press was really, really good. When United were in, or when City were into their flat back 4, every time the ball would go out to Nico O'Reilly over there, I'm getting my names mixed up, to O'Reilly over there, and Bumo would have a curling run, and you can see that the players are marked extremely well in how they are pressing and how they are containing the passing outlets. Almost every single time that they would make a pass from one of these areas, they would lose the ball. Make this white really quick. Draw a little bit better. They would lose the ball. So the press, I felt, was one of the best things that we did. I also want to note here, because you need to watch for it, and it happens pretty much the entire game. This is Bruno Fernandes on Phil Foden. Okay. Bruno Fernandes was on Phil Foden pretty much every second of the game, bar when conceding. And some of the things he said in his interview are really concerning to me, not from the perspective of the tactics, but the perspective of he's not getting it, and he's the captain, and he's wrong. And if he's evaluating it wrong on the pitch, then we're in real trouble, and that worries me quite a bit. Part of my thinking of getting it wrong, I know why he wants him in that deeper role. I think on the ball, there's a lot more he can do in that deeper role. I think as a 10 in this system, he doesn't have the right attributes. and the ball will stick to him too much when the 10s are supposed to move it quick and they're supposed to run fast and carry the ball and make runs in behind, which he doesn't do. But he's been so bad out of possession, he can't play there anymore. And so a solution has to be figured out here, because it's either he doesn't play or you play him in a different position. You're compromising either way. So again, they essentially have to go long. They kick it out for a throw. We start here. Now, here's something really weird happens, and this is something they did completely wrong early on in the game that I don't really understand. They got it right a few seconds later. They throw the ball back to Lenny Yoro. De Ligt, I don't know why he's running back. This is a bad body shape, because as the pass comes in, he should be facing up play so that he can easily pass the ball either to Luke Shaw, who needs to be getting way out wide over here, but he needs to stand his ground right here, take the pass, and either be able to hit Luke Shaw or Patrick Dorgu, who is into the right spot. If this player is here, he can pass it to Luke Shaw. If this player continues to press Luke Shaw, he passes it over to Dorgu. Yes, it has to be quick, but that is the game. Instead, he's running all the way back, and Lenny gives him an even worse pass that sends him nearly into our own net. Just 1 minute into the game. This is where Luke Shaw ends up returning. And so when he receives it, look at the body shape and look at where he's at. He's turning on the run. Luke Shaw is as well doing something really poor here. Either he needs to be back here already, or he needs to stop right here. This is, again, inverting the center back isn't always the central center back. This is the only place he shouldn't be when De Ligt is receiving this ball and turning is right here, because all he's doing is blocking a passing lane to Patrick Dorgu and running the forward right in the way of it. So many times during this game on the rewatch, Luke Shaw was like in the worst pocket of space imaginable. I don't know what he was doing, completely unfocused, but this is one of those moments. If he stops here, you can pass to Dorgu, or if the presser follows, then you can pass to Shaw. If he gets back quicker, then he can be out of the lane. And once again, same as the earlier image, you have one of those options available. So they messed that up, and essentially we lose the ball pretty quickly there. Passing it, we go up the pitch, gets headed down, we lose the ball. Now, the thing I want to point out here is, again, I watched the entire 55 minutes through, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward. The midfield is not overrun, okay? The midfield is not overrun. The midfield is not being outnumbered 4 versus 2. And let me explain why I say that and what I find completely disingenuous about that. If they bring in, they don't have 4 midfielders. If they bring in 10s, if they bring in wingers, their man mark has to follow them. That's all. It's not more complicated than that. City actually went with a very little of a midfield. It was basically just Rodri and a bunch of forwards running around. But you can see here, we actually have it in the press. One, in this case, Bruno is stepping up to Rodri off of Foden because it's the right time to step up to him. In this case, Lenny is supposed to move up to Foden. De Ligt is on Haaland. Ugarte is on, I don't remember the other forward here. And then Reinders kept dropping out wide. I think it's Bernardo Silva there in the middle for Ugarte. We have the numbers. There's nothing wrong here. Yes, the center back has to step up. There's no reason Lenny shouldn't step up here, and that's fine. We actually contain them well, win the ball back, we force them all the way back because we've blocked off essentially all the passing angles. Ahmad taking an inside channel here is good, forces the ball backwards. They have to go all the way back to the keeper. That's a successful press. Then they go out wide. Once again, I want to show you the numbers. Okay. This is where there was a little bit of danger. Watch again Bruno here. Listen. Šeško was following Rodri. Bruno is he's doing this thing, and he started it in minute 1, and it's a warning sign. He's standing and he's pointing, and he's not paying attention. Foden, right before this image is right behind him, walks off of him. Lenny Yoro steps up to follow. In this case, that's right. Ugarte sees the danger coming back because he sees Haaland has jumped in here, which pulls De Ligt up, which means that Rangers can run into the gap created by Foden. This is actually what we do. Every team does this to a degree, but this is actually our thing. 10 drags the center back, another 10 or a 9 drops into the hole behind them. Shaw is slow to follow, but they end up actually being offsides. But I just want to point out, again, Bruno is not actually doing anything. It's not the only problem with this. He's not actually doing anything. This is dangerous because Luke Shaw was slow to track Rangers. He has to follow him here, or he has to hand him off properly to De Ligt. But he doesn't in either case. And again, we're losing an extra man, but we're not overloaded. This is my point. 1, 2, 3, 4. And at most, you can say they have 1, 2 players in the middle. That's not an overload. These are just rotations, and City are very good at them. Ball goes in, ends up offsides. We get a little bit lucky. But once again, look at the numbers. We're not overloaded. 1, 2, 3, and they have the players coming from behind. So it's a good rotation by City. It's a type of attacking pattern we try to employ successfully sometimes, unsuccessfully other times, but it just doesn't work. In this instance, we see almost the same thing has happened in minute 1. Lenny receives it here. De Ligt on the back foot. But in this case, he actually turns. You can see the same situation, a little more like compact. Watch what happens in the next image. So Shaw runs back into this gap instead of blocking the space for Dorgu, which means Bernardo Silva has to come all the way over here. Instead of running backwards, De Ligt holds his ground, has some bravery, boom, pops it right over the top to Patrick Dorgu in space, and there's nobody on him at that point in time, so it beats the press in one play. We have to be able to do that. That is just normal. So this was better. The first minute, they for some reason ran all the way backwards, lost the ball. Second minute, pass goes to De Ligt, chips it over to Dorgu. Shaw clears the space out. But you can see here how, again, Shaw is even still a little bit slow. But if Shaw's out here wide, he was sitting in De Ligt's lap so much of this game, I don't know why. It even caused, I think, the third goal with Maguire by how he was not wide. He was so narrow. I don't understand that. I think he was afraid of reindeers running or something like that. But that's what happens here. So we're able to get through. Dorgu draws a foul, and we're in good shape. Now, again, we have a weird situation. I'll show you again. We get a throw in from this spot, and look at where we go. We throw it so far back to De Ligt, and look at where Shaw is. Again, De Ligt is receiving it right here. What is Shaw doing here? And what advantage does this provide us? And look at his stance and the way his body is shaped and all of that. He should be way out here. Again, he was so narrow to De Ligt in this game. I don't know what he was doing, and it must have been to something to try to track runners, but he was just in the weirdest spots at the weirdest times. So we end up having to go back to goal. You can see Shaw again, seconds late, trying to run out wide. I could go on about Shaw in this game. It was awful from him. Absolutely awful from him. So we have to go back to Bayindir. Then I just want to point out another thing once again where I say, what are we doing with this? Bayindir goes long. Patrick Dorgu is once again coming back in acres and acres of space. This is an easy pass. It's a simple chip. City were leaving half the pitch open here on this side when we were coming back because it's Bernardo Silva, because of the speed, the slowness, and because we were pinning them a bit higher up on that side. Our wingbacks were not being pinned back on this side. Because City were packing the middle, we had a lot of space out wide. I don't know why. Again, this is one of those frustrating things. Just make the pass. We don't have to go long. In that case, we can just pass it down. That being said, we end up heading the ball back, winning it. Here's where Bruno does the right thing. You can see again, this is the same kind of thing we show against Fulham. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then 9, Dorgu, is up. So look, you have this 2v1 we've been talking about for weeks over on this side because almost all their players are in the wrong half of the pitch. and Dorgu is in the wrong quadrant of the pitch. Bruno pings it out wide correctly. Good ball, good attack, creates a 2v1. But here's the issue. Look at how deep Mazraoui is. This is what you lose. This is what you lose when it's not Ahmad. He has no reason to be this deep. Patrick Dorgu's all the way up here. If he's here, we get an easy run in on net. Instead, by the time he receives it, look at how slow he is. By the time he receives it and turns, Dorgu has caught up to him. The other defender has caught up to him. We've lost all of our advantage. And instead of being able to run by the defender to create an overload, he tries to pass it through a very, very tight gap into Bryan Mbeumo. He tries to pass it right through here into Mbeumo, and we lose our advantage. So compare these two images, and this is where he gets it wrong. We cannot pick Mazraoui at right wing back because he just doesn't have the attacking pace or idea to do this. He should have been 15 yards up the pitch. He has no reason to be there. Oops, excuse me. He has no reason to be that deep. When we watched that with Ahmad, he was usually either here or running this way very, very quickly and taking it with pace. With Mazraoui, he receives it. The defense is able to catch up. We lose that 2-on-1 advantage very quickly and can't turn it into any sort of opportunity that it should have been. So I said, we were creating good situations, not creating good chances. That's part of the reason. Once again, goes from a goal kick. Mbeumo does this really nice press out, forcing Nico O'Reilly to go long because he's blocked off the inside channel. Really good pressing from him. You can see here, he corners him into the flag. I think it's Mazraoui steps up, intercepts it. Another great press. There was 5 press wins, I think, in the first 5 minutes. It was really good. Really, really good. And then we don't do anything with it. So I'm just saying, again, situations. You know what I mean? Not turning into chances. Let me see. What is this? Can't remember what this is, to be quite honest. Here, again, this is the next press win. We lose it. They go long from a throw. And again, we're stepping up and winning the press. I just want to also once again point out the numbers. There's no overload. It's the same. In fact, there was a lot of instances during this game where we were playing a 4-3-3. Amusingly, what people are asking for, where we were playing a 4-3-3, where we had 3 men in the middle because Dorgu was in line with Ugarte and Bruno. Mazraoui was basically in the back 4. Ahmad and Mbeumo were up with Šeško, and it was basically a 4-3-3 for half the game, but that's neither here nor there. Now, let's talk the inverted center back. Here, we do the inverted center back, okay? We spread the center backs wide. The striker presses the goalkeeper. You make a brave pass into Matthijs de Ligt, who can then turn because you've opened up the middle. He finds Ahmad right there from this pass. This ball comes in right here. And look, this is where, again, I say situations... Good situations, not being turned into chances. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4 against 3 advantage. You have the option to keep running, which is probably the right option. You have the option to go out wide to Mbeumo, which is probably the worst option. You have the option to go out wide or through the lines to Dorgu, which is probably the best option. And you have the opportunity to make a bit of a riskier pass over the top to Šeško, which isn't bad when you consider his pace. This ball goes out wide for a throw-in instantly. Doesn't even take a touch running forward. Doesn't do anything with it. Immediately loses it out. Passes it out wide. Just not good enough. Just not good enough. I don't know. It's another really good situation. You're getting the amount of space Dorgu was getting was fantastic. If we can take advantage of it. It happens so many times, but we didn't. And I'll talk more about that kind of at the end as well. Here again, we end up going back to goal. And if you look, I'd want to point this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players all in this tiny section of the pitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once again, wide open, wide open. This ball goes all the way up here to nobody. This is not a hard pass for a keeper to make into this space. Remember, this is also, I believe, Bernardo Silva, one of the slowest players on the pitch. This is an easy pass, but it goes long to the center back. We actually end up winning the second ball yet again because we've actually set up really well. Here's what comes of that. It goes here. It goes to Rodri. Now look, once again on the numbers, okay? Bruno's on Phil Foden. Ugarte's on Reindeers. Dorgu is on Silva. Ahmad comes over to press Rodri, wins the ball. Where's the overload? It doesn't exist. There is no overload. Then there's this one, and I kind of went in on this on the live a little bit yesterday just to kind of explain it. But from that press, we get the ball quickly up to Šeško, and Mbumo makes a run through the middle. Ahmad is here. Dorgu is here. This is where there's a difference between, again, Ahmad and Mazraoui, and where this is a selection issue. Mazraoui is way too deep. There's huge spaces again to exploit. In Mbumo's case here, he probably makes the right run if you actually have a wingback on, because then you're dragging the defender to leave a massive gap for the wingback, same as you're getting on this side by Ahmad staying narrow. There is no wingback. So he needs to probably keep going out wide and open up space for Šeško to run through the middle a bit and then pass it out wide. This is, again, an issue where you would want this player moving up here. Remember, the ball was on this side, so it makes sense for Dorgu to be this deep, even though he's starting to catch up the play. But on that side, again, Mazraoui just doesn't have the pace or the attacking instinct. Here we make a good moment. We play out of a really, really tight channel. We spring the attack, and once again, huge opportunity. Mbumo receives it here. Ahmad is through. This is a one-on-one. This is the pass. It's not actually that hard. He's left-footed. If he's right-footed, maybe you have to curl it around Diaz, which is also probably not that hard. Left-footed, it's not a tough pass to make. It's a simple turn-in, inside foot pass. Right here. One touch inside and through. You have Dorgu bombing down. You look at the next frame. Kind of waits almost a step too long. Still makes the pass. Gets it through the gap. Hits it way too weakly. Ahmad is clean through and has separation. This ball can roll all the way out to here. Donnarumma is going backwards. Okay? And Ahmad is through on goal for a one-on-one. Just hits it poorly. So we're 8 minutes in, and we have 3-4 situations already that should have turned into great chances that they just don't turn into great chances. It's kind of a bummer. It is what it is. What happens in this situation? Remember what that image is all about. Ball goes forward here. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I'm missing, forgetting what this one was about. I don't remember if I meant to take a picture of this one. Oh, you know what this was? They clear it. We win it back instantly because literally City did not practically touch the ball. Then you go over here a minute later. Dorgu presses, wins the ball from Silva. Silva drags him down from behind, running towards the box. Should be a yellow, but Anthony Taylor is, as per, a prick. Then you take this situation, okay? What was the issue with this situation? I mean, nothing particularly. Again, I think I'm just pointing out the numbers. 3, 4. Again, it's kind of a 4-3-3. If you haven't noticed, we kind of defended in a 4-3-3 most of the game. But you know, the two-man midfield is the problem, I guess. Regardless, this is fine. We're packing the middle. We're blocking the middle. There's nothing really going on there worth noting. Let me see if the next image was where there was any relevance to that. So we can go back. No, it's like a minute later. This is like the one time in that first 12 minutes that City kind of got set up. You can see again, blocking the middle, and Mbeumo's coming back. Bruno is on Foden, as he was all game. Shaw and De Ligt have Haaland in between them. This is Ahmad blocking off somebody. Ugarte was pressing up, comes back. Either way, lots and lots of numbers. Lenny was on Foden and then moves back. And Bruno picks him up. We're forcing the ball out wide. Now, here is where we had a danger situation. This specific image in general, I want to point out. In this case, Ugarte's on Foden. He makes that darting run in through that he does really, really well. Ugarte's a step behind him, ends up catching up to him. But this was like a bit of a warning sign on this run right here in between Shaw, because Reinders moves out, drags Shaw out of this gap. Foden runs in behind. This is one of City's most basic, always rotations. But we recover the play, block him off. Shaw is slow to follow Reindeers here. He needs to be better at that. He's behind Reindeers in both facets of the play. He's behind him here, and he's once again, when Reindeers comes back the other way, he's behind him here. He hits the ball out for a bad pass. He probably could have just hit it right here, and it would have been a dangerous situation for us. So that was a warning sign. This rotation and run into the Shaw gap was a warning sign there. Then we receive the ball. Again, in this situation, I remember what I want to point out here. Ahmad receives it. He's in this kind of attacking zone. I want to point out how high up Bruno is. Again, in rewatching the game, he was pretty much a 10 for the most of the game, so he wasn't even particularly playing deep. But what I wanted to point out was Mazraoui. Look at how far back he is in this instance. He takes so long to overlap that there's nothing we can do. Ahmad has to cut it back and wait because he takes so long to get up there that we kind of lose any advantage. Here's another warning sign, but I want to point it out. Ugarte's on Reinders. Foden is following. Bruno's following Foden. Šeško is the one kind of sitting around Rodri. We leave their back line alone for the most part, by the way. We really don't press their back line unless it's deep. Here, this is when you watch the video is baffling, okay? This is Bruno. The ball goes out to here, okay? Bruno randomly, look, I want you to just see this because this was how the goal happened. This isn't the goal. This is what happened right before. It was the exact movement that City repeated. Remember, Ugarte's is on Reindeers here. Bruno's on Foden right here in the image before. He runs up and just presses randomly. No trigger, no reason, no point. He just abandons it. And this pass comes right through to Foden. It's the exact same play they'll score on a minute later. He leaves Ugarte in between two players, abandoned Foden. He's praying that Lenioro is going to step up quick enough to block the pass off, and he sort of steps up to a degree to block the pass off, but it was a completely random thing, and if you watch that in real time, you'll see that. No press trigger, nobody else going, he just goes. He just goes and just leaves his mark. Now we go into another attack. We do end up winning the ball back. Dorgu out here out wide. Here's another good situation. We look to the cross. Šeško in the middle. And Mbumo right here. It goes all the way over to Ahmad, who attempts a bicycle kick. We're just not getting the ball to the right people. Our crossing was diabolical. Good. Next possession. This is the goal. Now watch. There's a tiny variation that City introduced that exposes Bruno's random pressing and puts us in trouble. It is not Lenioro's fault. Okay? Why? Dorgu. This is what Bruno's not paying attention to because he doesn't scan well and he doesn't have great defensive awareness. He's on Foden. He can say he's on Rodri. He's full of shit. Šeško and Ugarte are essentially on Rodri. Ugarte also in between the passing lane to Reindeers. Okay, yes, Lenioro steps up. Bruno looks, but he doesn't see Dorgu. Yoro does. So in the next frame that we go to, Yoro steps back to stay in line with Dorgu. Bruno's not pressing Rodri. He's not pressing anybody. He's planted, looking the other way and pointing. He's not switching to Rodri. Šeško is still on Rodri. The ball is not at Rodri's feet. Mbumo is pressing the center back. He just ditches. He just stands still, watches Foden run off of him and receive the ball, and then Foden runs up the pitch, and he doesn't even run him down. Then it gets even worse. This is the same sequence or passage of play after City run through and get over to the side to Silva and cut it back. Bruno is right here, flapping his arms at Lenioro, who is now on Haaland. Flapping his arms, still yelling at him. He was actually turned around from the ball. I shit you not. A second before this, he's turned around, facing his own goal, yelling at Lenioro, flapping his arms, and he doesn't notice that Phil Foden runs off. Now look at Ugarte. He sees him. He's on Dorgu. Here's that huge gap we're talking about, the Shaw gap, because Shaw is inexplicably... this is actually De Ligt, but this is Shaw. Yeah, he's out wide. That's right, in this case. Shaw gap, inexplicably, this is a gap that they were trying to exploit in between De Ligt and Shaw, as we saw earlier. Ugarte sees this, even though he's on Dorgu, and he's like, oh shit, now I have two players to cover in the middle because Bruno's too busy moaning at his teammates for his own errors. Ball comes in, Ugarte jumps into the middle, in between the two because he's blocking the inside channel. The ball comes into Dorgu. Shaw steps over here. Dorgu gets by him, as we saw. And Ugarte is the only one, once again, chasing him down. Like I said, this guy's going to get blamed for everything. That part just annoys me because he just gets blamed for everything. Here again is Bruno. Here again is Foden. So Foden managed to run up here and run right back here. And Bruno was here. And he just meanders over into a random spot doing nothing. Okay? This is not Lenioro's problem. Lenioro's problem is Haaland, who is dropping in behind him and going back post. Phil Foden is not Lenioro's problem. Ugarte is man-to-man. De Ligt is blocking the pass across the middle. Yoro is guarding Haaland. There is nobody else to cover Foden except Bruno, and he just ball watches him. And then when it's done and they score, guess what he's doing? Yelling at Lenioro. Unforgivable for me. I cannot have a captain doing that. I don't care who your manager is. I don't care what tactics you employ. It is inexcusable the way that he is acting. It's the same as Fulham. And the thing about it is that this part isn't new. For all of Bruno's strengths, his defensive awareness is crap. He doesn't understand a defensive game. He doesn't, and he can't be blaming other people for his own mistakes. So that was really, really frustrating. And I spent so long on this early part. Sorry, this was the image before. You can see Ugarte jumps up into here in between the two, and then Dorgu kind of runs through. And you can see again, Bruno has here now position in between Foden and goal after this, and he still can't track him. So there's nobody else to blame. It's here again, you can see the image. Ugarte has to jump into this gap. Dorgu, even still, we have it covered. Shaw just gets fully shaked and baked. But you can see here, this is Lenny on Haaland. He can't do anything else. This is your man. There's no fucking excuse. Period. Not going to say any more on it. Then we have Shaw just passing the ball randomly out of play. Then we have, this is what happens after the goal. Captain loses his head. Team loses his head. He losing his shit at Lenny. This pass comes in from Dorgu to Bruno. He just lets it under his feet for a throw in. Painful. Don't remember what this was. I don't remember what this was, actually. I think I'm just showing, once again, kind of numbers. I don't even know who this is. Anyway, whatever. I don't know what that image is. Apologies. All right, so in this sequence of play, we can watch again Dorgu drops into here. This where, again, Lenny was a little bit slow to jump, but he does jump. We can see once again, it is Bruno who is on Foden. This passing angle is blocked. Everything is blocked correctly. We actually then kind of wrestle back control, win the ball in some good positions, and we're kind of okay. In this attack, this is unfortunate. We win the ball back. We do all of that. The ball is right here, right in this little dot. Lenny has position. Haaland just beats him. That's all. He had a rough game, Lenny, unfortunately. He's had a lot of great games. Yesterday or Sunday was a rough one, and it results in this attack. So that counter, again, nothing to do with being overloaded. Lenny just gets beat fully one-on-one and stepping up to tackle Haaland. He's not even tackling a midfielder. It's just a forward. We actually defend it pretty well in the end. Get the ball back. Then here, we end up getting through. Here's another great situation. Dorgu free at the back post, running absolutely free as he was all game. Mbeumo running free. We just fuck it up. We just hit a bad cross, and that's it. There's nothing else in it. I mean, once again, this is a really good opportunity. As good, if not better than City's, once again, and we just mess it up. Here again, this is where I start to get really frustrated with Shaw. Ball comes back. He's got all this time and space. He's got Dorgu out wide. Nobody's covering him. Puts his foot on the ball, stops, kind of just goes backwards. Slows the play down so much. Here again, you have Mazraoui out on this side. The overload is on that side. He tries to cut in on his left and pass, and it just gets intercepted. He was not really doing anything productive on that side as a wingback. Then we win it back. This is a really good idea. Ball comes to Ugarte. You can see Mbeumo making this run right through the lines. It's marginally offside. Even if it wasn't, Mbeumo's through on net, skies the ball. You have to be putting those in the net. Like, it was pretty marginally offside to the point where just fucking do the play anyway and score. We're just not taking those chances. Here again, Mbeumo's here. He's waiting for the overlap. It takes so long. I missed the image here. But anyway, it takes so long. By the time Mazraoui gets through, he tries to make the pass. Gvardiol is already over to block him off and run it out for a goal kick. It just takes so long for that to develop. Once again, second half kicks off. We curl their press properly. It goes over to Kusanov, and they're forced to go long, which we win the ball. Now, here's a nice play. We play out the back. We do this little bounce over here into the midfield. Bruno out wide. Here again, I'll point out Mazraoui. Look at all this space. He's not moving forward, so the pass can't come in front of him. It goes ball to feet. We lose any attacking advantage there. It goes really slow, and the play stops. A few minutes later, same thing. When City get the ball, we're pressing them out to the corners, forcing them long, winning it. Then this is how we concede. We have it. Mazraoui passes to Mbeumo. He just kicks it straight out of play for a throw-in. Sloppy mistakes like that. Ball comes in, goes through Ugarte. Lenny gets beat by Dorgu inside. There's nobody else he can blame on that one. That one's his fault. Like I said, he did have a rough game. He's allowed to. I can forgive Lenny for having a rough game from a dual standpoint, but I just want to point out that all came from the moment he gets confused by that early incident with Bruno yelling at him, which was not his fault. From that point on, he struggled. And I mentally, when your captain is confusing the shit out of you, I can forgive a young player. But he had a bad game. He did. He lets Dorgu inside. Again, you have Shaw and De Ligt here on Haaland, who just runs right through. Just poor defending, and it's game over. And that's it. That's all I've got. So I analyzed the whole heckin' lot of it. A lot of really good situations United are in. Situations that they cannot turn into chances, shots, and goals. I don't care what happens after the second goal. The game state changes. United create more. It doesn't matter, like I said. But a few things that I still go on about. We're not conceding chances because of this midfield overloads. Yes, teams have a tactic. Yeah, they'll bring someone into the midfield. That's fine. We're not outnumbered. We're making mistakes in the man-to-man press, primarily Bruno, and practically nobody else. And that's really it. Like, none of this is like some huge tactical thing. We got way more clear-cut opportunities than City did in that game. Opportunities where we have wingbacks and players running free in open space, numerical advantages that we can't exploit. They exploit them every single time. We're not good at it. And that's frustrating. But the biggest thing that I see is that it still comes down to personnel. And I really can't be convinced of anything different because I've analyzed this week in, week out, rewatched. The issues that are showing up are basically the same but different. Against Fulham, with Bruno, for example, against Fulham, it wasn't the out of possession. Well, it was on Smith Rowe. On the goal conceded, it's the exact same thing as Foden. He lets his runner go by. But the game itself, he was missing the passes. He wasn't finding them. In possession, getting the ball up the pitch, not really an issue. Out of possession, just losing it. And that whole incident with Lenny in the first half of that first goal is, to me, it's completely inexcusable when that's your captain. And that represents the mentality problem that you have. The heads go for 15 minutes after that, and everybody's losing it, and mistakes are being made. There's nobody else to blame. That is frustrating. Bruno cannot play deep. I don't think he can play 10, and I think that he needs time on the bench, because the fact of the matter is the things he's not doing are a responsibility that every player has to do. You just can't shirk that. That's on Amorim. Ahmad in the 10 with Mazraoui out wide, terrible decision. It never works. It's not going to work. It reduces our huge advantage of getting that pace out wide in those 2v1 situations where we're dragging players into the middle or deep and exploiting that wide areas. You can see how much space Dorgu got because he's a top athlete. Mazraoui's not getting that because he's not a top athlete. It's just not his skill set. He's great in the back three with the game in front of him, technical out of the press, things like that. Can't be playing out wide there. Ahmad, not good in the left 10 either. It should have been Xerxes in there with Ahmad out wide, and I think the game is way different because there was so many lost opportunities with that. Those are selection issues. Those are things that the manager's just getting wrong. They don't work. They haven't worked. They're not working. Got to have a winger out wide to match that thing, and the effect it has on City is as well really big. And it's not like Dorgu was going even at Mazraoui, and honestly, don't even have to worry about it. Doku's danger that he created was often coming to the other side. It wasn't out wide against us, and anyway, it just was whatever. The one time he did something, it was against Lenny in the middle because he just missed it. But that's fine. Those are selection issues. Should have been Xerxes. Should be Ahmad out wide. Stop putting Mazraoui at right wing back. It never works. I think we lose every single time we do it. And we lose a lot of attacking threat. The Bruno problem has to be solved. You could have put Bruno in the 10 and gone like Mainu and Ugarte, fine, if you wanted to do that. I still think there's big issues with Bruno in the 10 in terms of his running and not having runners in front of him because of the way we want to play. And when Cunha and Mount come back, you have that problem as well. I think they're both better in the 10 in this system than he is. Bruno doesn't have to play. That's just how I see it. But he's got to solve that. Amorim has to solve that. He has options. He talked about Bruno playing instead of Mainu because Bruno tracks back. Well, then he doesn't. So you can't make an excuse for it. He said specifically, picked him in that role because he's tracking back, and then he's not. So there really is no excuse for it. Mainu should be playing over him right now. He just should. With Casemiro, with Ugarte, I don't care. But Mainu should be playing over him in that deep role right now. We've seen enough. I'm fine with the competition. I'm fine with the management of Mainu. I'm fine with the statement that, you got to improve on these things. I'm good with all of that. But Bruno's not doing it and is actively costing us multiple times already this season. So make the change. There's that aspect, the 10 aspect, the winger aspect out wide. Luke Shaw's half and half all the time. I'd get Heaven back in. I'd get Mazraoui into the back three. Just get some consistency, or at least be playing a young player like Heaven who has potential. The last thing I want to mention was about Patrick Dorgu receiving the ball in spaces so many times, because I see this being presented as a huge problem. And I spoke about this on the live yesterday, and I posted a little short that was like, look, people are saying like, you're asking Patrick Dorgu to be Ryan Giggs. And the thing is, you are. And you kind of, but not Giggs, Evra, Irwin, Beckham, Ronaldo, like, hell, Gary Neville, Valencia Young. You could be any of these players. There's plenty of examples in football of wingbacks and fullbacks who, when they receive the ball in attacking areas, are doing something with it. Patrick Dorgu is young. He's got to develop. But there's nothing inherently wrong with Patrick Dorgu receiving the ball in wide open spaces and attacking areas. And he's getting there because he's a top athlete. He's young. He needs to add that attacking part to his game. The answer, if Patrick Dorgu can't cross a ball and can't put it in the box and he can't add that to his game, is not change the game so that we're not getting the ball into wide open spaces for the fullback. Just buy another fullback. Pep went through 13 of them to get the right ones. He spent like $300 million on left backs at one point over the span of like 4 seasons to find the right fullbacks. It's like saying, well, he had Kyle Walker and in these positions to do certain jobs. Well, yeah, and he got him from Spurs because he could do that job that he wanted, and it was a part of his tactic. And when you kept swapping out the left backs, it was find the right one. And so like when we talk about things like keep switching managers till you find the right one, but this is even easier with players. If a player can't give you what you need in that position, you don't change and lower what you need and say, well, we're just going to not get these great opportunities. We need the output from them. I mean, that's just it. You just need better players. We do need players of the quality of Giggs and Irwin and these types of guys and Evra, because that's how you win titles. You don't drop it and say, well, we have to win a title with a player who can't hit across. That's not how it works. Dorgu's got to add it to his game. He's young. I think he will. I think he'll get a lot better at that. But if he doesn't, you don't abandon the idea of getting the ball into those attacking areas. You just get better players and get them the ball in those attacking areas, and then they'll do more with it. But there was another aspect of this that I wanted to mention, because some of the idea around it is that he's getting all the touches or something, and it's just not true. I put all the stats together. This is not a stat of, oh, we're so good or something like that, but it's touches in the attacking third per 90 and shot creating actions and shots. And I put a couple of opposing players on here forward so you could see the difference. In the touches in the attacking third, the person who's getting the most touches in the attacking third per game is Mbeumo. That's the right player. That's the right player getting the right touches in the right areas. It's Ahmad. That's the right player getting the right touches in the right areas. It's actually really well spread out between Mount, Cunha, Bruno, Ahmad, Mbeumo, and Dorgu. That's like your front 6. That's your 5 forwards that we've been playing for the most part, and your 8 who comes up into the 10. Bruno isn't exactly like not getting touches in the attacking third. He's not exactly playing so deep that he's not in the area. He's only touching the ball like just from a number standpoint, by the way. On a usual season in the 10, he would be like here. It's like 3 or 4 more touches per game. He is not actually being neutered playing deep and not being involved in the attack. And it's not like Dorgu's getting all that. He's getting a lot. Don't get me wrong. Dorgu's getting a lot. But he's a part of the front 5. He's a winger. He's the opposite to Ahmad, right? When Ahmad is playing out wide. These are guys you want on the ball. It is being spread out quite well. Bruno, Ahmad, and Mbeumo have more touches per 90 than Marmoush. They have almost as many as Salah. Mbeumo has, I think, more. The issue you see when it's this low is that per touches, yes, Dorgu isn't creating as much. We need him to be better at creating with all the touches he's getting. That's all. But that doesn't mean we have to change the strategy. We need him to develop into that player. In the preseason, that's what I spoke with him about. I said, adding attacking goals, assists, creativity to your game, that's what is needed. That's the round part. That's what you should be working on. That's what he seemed to be improving on in preseason, has not translated into Premier League as of yet. But that's what's necessary either way. So that's how I see it. I don't see it as this thing of like, oh, it's getting over to Dorgu, so let's change it because we have Dorgu. No, he either gets good at it or we buy another left wing back, which, by the way, we want anyway. And, I was discussing this yesterday. If you go buy Semenyo in January and you put him in that position, you're suddenly really happy with all those touches because he'll create something with it. You know what I mean? That's how it's supposed to be. That in Sporting, he could get away with converting wingers into wingbacks in both sides, Maxi Araujo and Quenda. In the Premier League, I think Dorgu, because he's a better defender first and so athletic, that's part of it. But he's got to round out the attacking side of it for it to work. We need that. It's like, that's just the way I see it. So Amorim has to, if he's going to have us not lose every fucking game and then lose the job, he has to improve on quite a number of things. And a lot of them come down to selections. Some other things just have to be improved personnel-wise, player-wise. Dorgu has to get better in those positions. And Mbeumo and Ahmad have to get better at converting those opportunities into goals and chances. We have to get better at crossing the ball into Benjamin Šeško because he's there and every cross is flying over his head, which is hard to do. We have to get better at some of those things. Some of those are purely players' perspectives. From Amorim's perspective, again, the way I see it, and it's really not gonna. You don't have to convince me, and you're not going to of something different because of the way that I watch it. Nor should it matter to you, because I'm at the same point as everybody else. If he doesn't fix the selection issues, changing the game by picking different players who have different attributes to fit within his system, which is something he can do, and I think we have the options to do better with. If he doesn't do that, he will lose his job. So you can say you need him to change the system. I don't see it that way. I do see you need to pick players who have different attributes in the system, which will ultimately change the way that the system is executed and plays out on the pitch. Maybe it's two sides of the same coin. Doesn't matter. Regardless, something has to improve because there's a bit of bad luck in this. There's a bit of just find the net. But there are also predictable things that are happening that are flawed that everybody could see coming as well. So, long-winded, exhausting week 4 tactical review. Hope you enjoyed it, though. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know where you stand on everything. And hopefully we see some changes that actually result in things. It has to soon. I'm about as patient. I'm not as patient as they come, but for me, it's been 10 months. I usually say give managers a year. I'm almost up to my year. I'm actually pretty impatient with managers in general. If we're not winning 6-7 points by the next international break and fixing these problems, if from the next 3 games we're not getting 6 or 7 points, I have nothing else to say. And at that point in time, I believe it'll be fully failed. So we need changes, and I think we can't lose to Chelsea this weekend either and have to actually do pretty well. And we have to make changes in order to do that. Okay? That's what I've got. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.